The unsung warrior king who annihilated Bakhtiyar Khilji, Maharaja Prithu, Professor Raktim Patar, is here with us.
He was the man who actually prevented the Muslim invaders to conquer not only Kamrup but also to Tibet, China and Southeast Asia.
उसके बिना तो संभव ही नहीं।
Had Prithu failed, the history would have been different.
First Muslim invasion of Assam took place in 1206 CE under the command of Mahavijay Bakhtiyar Khilji. He took up the much galvanized expedition to conquer Tibet and Southeast Asia by the ancient route that lies through Assam. However, when entering the territories of Kamarupa or ancient Assam, Maharaja Prithu alias Diwas then ruler of this kingdom, completely destroyed the invading army. Only less than 100 soldiers out of the formidable 12,000 cavalries and more than 20,000 infantry soldiers could return to Bengal. Subsequently, in 1227, there was another Muslim invasion in Assam led by the Sultan of Bengal Ghiyasuddin Iwaz Khilji. This invasion also met a similar fate as that of Bakhtiyar, resisting both the Muslim invasion. Nevertheless, nothing much has been written on this glorious chapter of Indian history. This is an attempt to document a short account of the events associated with it. Despite the limited resources, both men and materials, Maharaja Prithu could successfully the invasion of Bakhtiyar Khilji and Ghiyasuddin Iwaz Khilji and the role played by the warrior King Prithu. During the 12th and 13th centuries, the hordes of Muslim invaders reached the gates of Bihar and Bengal and continued their zeal for rape, plunder, and destruction of Hindu and Buddhist religious centers. The repeated early Muslim invasions were successfully repulsed by the kings of Kamarupa, which remained an independent kingdom till the last, unconquered even by the Mughals. The Ahom kings, who became themselves Hindus and erected numerous Hindu temples, successfully resisted the repeated Mughal invasions for over a century with their limited resources. The Muslim invasions in Kamarupa, which is present-day Assam, begun by Muhammad Bakhtiyar Khilji in 1205-6, were repulsed by Maharaja Prithu. From the early 13th century to the late 17th century, there were several Muslim invasions in Assam that were successfully resisted. The attempt of the successive Muslim rulers to colonize the territories of Assam and beyond the Himalayas ended in jeopardy. It is a historical fact that Bakhtiyar Khilji was annihilated by a warrior king in Kamarupa. The person who destroyed Nalanda, Odantapuri, and Vikramshila and conquered Bihar and Bengal with his swift and well-trained cavalry met the most disastrous end in Assam. Nevertheless, the glorious chapter of Indian history has never been well written. The historians of the contemporary period have failed to provide some space for this important but forgotten event in their voluminous books. So far, very scanty information is available on Maharaja Prithu. Often historians have refused to acknowledge him as the ruler who had defended both the first and the second Muslim invasion in northeast India. During Prithu's rule, the boundary Kamrup was extended from the present Darong district in Assam in the east to the Dinajpur district, and campaign was directed against it during their time. The last part of the 12th century is very significant in the history of Kamrup. It witnessed the rise of a local chief by the name of Prithu. The Persian chronicle Tabaqat-i-Nasiri called him Bartu. Prithu alias Visvasundaradev was one of the greatest rulers of ancient Kamarupa, ruled from 1185 to 1228 CE. In our opinion, he was a local chief as stated by S.K. Chatterjee, who rose to the position of the king of Kamarupa and ruled for a considerable period, and resisted 2 Muslim invasions during his reign. We do not know his exact ethnic identity or which community or tribe he belonged to. Nevertheless, from the available literary and oral sources, it can be certainly said that Prithu was a local Hindu chief who unified the heterogeneous communities of ancient Kamarupa and commanded them to 2 successive victories against the fanatic Muslim attacks. During the third invasion in 1228 led by Nasiruddin, son of Sultan Iltutmish and the governor of Bengal, Prithu was defeated. It was not an easy task to defeat a formidable and skilled army of Prithu who were victorious against the Muslim invaders previously. During the fight, both sides suffered a huge number of casualties. Maharaja Prithu and his army inflicted considerable damage on the invading forces, so much so that even after the victory, Nasiruddin never dared to annex Kamarupa into the Muslim Empire in India. The commitment towards his people and valor of Prithu was such that even after his defeat, he, however, refused to submit or surrender to the enemy and rather chooses to drown himself in a tank called Maharaja Diwas situated inside the Bhattiargarh in Rangpur in Bangladesh. Local oral tradition is still current among the people states about the ruined city as the capital of a kingdom headed by Prithu. Most of the heaps of earth that survive the ravages of time are named after him: Maharaja Arbita, Maharaja Kakarayar, and Maharaja Diwas. According to local myths, Prithu Raja would rather let his kingdom go to ruins than see it surrendered to a savage tribe called Kachoks. Prithu was well aware of the horrific killing, looting, and destruction of temples and Buddhist monasteries in Bihar and Bengal by Bakhtiyar Khilji and his Turkish army before the invasion of Kamarupa. He was obviously in a state of alertness and must have heard of the demolition of the great seat of learning in Nalanda, Vikramshila, and Odantapuri. Perhaps he was monitoring the military advances of Bakhtiyar since his successful campaign in Bengal. Prithu was anticipating similar attacks on his kingdom by the Turkish army. Therefore he was prepared for any eventualities from the Turkish general Bakhtiyar Khilji. It was his advanced preparedness that enabled him to initiate different strategies according to the climate and terrain of his kingdom against the invading forces. These far-sighted plans and strategies yielded the annihilation of a formidable Turkish army with limited resources at the disposal of Maharaja Prithu. It is worthwhile to mention that the troops of more than 12,000 Turkish cavalries and 20,000 infantry that came to invade Kamarupa were by far the largest invading army recorded in Assam's history. The destruction of such a mighty force demanded an exceptionally well-laid battle plan and skillful soldiers and formidable generals and above all far-sighted, brave, and inspirational king. The defeat marked the breaking of the winning streak of Muslim invaders since their entry into India. It was the first major debacle of the Muslim forces in several decades after their supremacy over India. The death and destruction of such a large force in Kamarupa considerably damaged the morale of the Muslim generals. It also broke the backbone of the Turkish cavalry who were instrumental in bringing success and establishment of Muslim rule in North India and Bengal. As a result of the disaster of Bakhtiyar and Kamarupa, the subsequent Muslim rulers of Bengal refrained from attacking Kamarupa over the next 2 decades. After successfully destroying the Turkish invaders, Raja Prithu consolidated his kingdom up to Jalpaiguri in the present West Bengal. Glaser referred to Prithu as an important king of Kamarupa who had constructed an extensive fortification in the present district of Jalpaiguri. Buchanan recorded Prithu Raja, from the size of his capital and the numerous construction works raised in the vicinity by various dependents and connections of the court, must have governed a large extent of the country and for a considerable period of time. Although he is in some measure an object of worship among the neighboring Hindus, they have few traditions concerning the place from whence he came nor at what period he lived. Today is the historic Vijay Diwas, when 817 years ago, on the 13th day of Chaitra, Saka 1127, CE 1206, Maharaja Prithu of Kamarupa, the ancient Assam, had annihilated Bakhtiyar Khilji, a notorious Turkish invader who was infamous for burning the famed Nalanda University of Bihar.